Sanders are out.
Sanders are out, Raleigh?
2 of them.
Sanders are out, and, let's drive safe.
Okay, so we've got a lot to talk about. Before I get started on our meeting from last week, I did want to make the announcement. I made the announcement in our meeting, but make the announcement here. I've got I'm actually, if it's possible to get excited about a water committee, I'm excited. I've got some pretty good speakers coming to our group that I'm excited about. I've been all along wanting to get the EPA out to talk to us. And we have something, in fact, that's a little better. The reason it's better is the EPA, I think their closest regional office is in Denver. They don't have an official in each state, so they kind of cover a regional geography. We've got, December 12th, we've got the director of the Department of Natural Resources coming, which I think is going to be fantastic. Maybe even a step better than the EPA, because he can apply all of those regulations to the state of South Dakota. So any regulation that the EPA has that may change from state to state, he can speak more specific to it regarding our scenario here in South Dakota, and specifically Brandon. Following that, 2 weeks after that was going to be December, was it 26th, I think? In other words, it was right by Christmas. We kind of decided that's maybe not the best time to have a committee meeting, especially an important one like this. So we cleared it with the committee, and also with the speaker coming on December 19th, we're going to have the state geologist and several hydrologists at the meeting. So I think that will be, again, I'm excited about it. I think there's going to be a lot of information that's going to come our way that will be highly beneficial in making to determine an outcome of what we need to do here in the future and in the near future. So, at our meeting last week, we had 2 gentlemen from Sioux Falls come in to talk about water conservation. Sioux Falls has been, I spent literally hours on the phone with the DNR and the geologists and hydrologists. I think there's going to be a lot of information. My mentality has, I will be the first to admit, has changed a little on what I thought, how we were going to come out of this. There's going to be some changes coming. Let's put it that way, and in a good way. I'm not talking about finger pointing or anything like that. I think that our path and our direction and our water sources and water quality might be. I might be wrong, but might be changing.
Open mind is always good.
Yeah, open minded. Again, I apologize. Up until a few weeks ago, it is correct that we pass all of our water tests. That is correct, and I don't think we failed one in 14, 15 years. And that is true, and because that's true, I had tunnel vision. I don't want to talk about water quality. We don't need to worry about it because we passed our tests. We need to move forward, and I've heard from enough people, I think that's wrong. I think maybe we do need to talk about water quality. Can we make it better? Yes. Should we? According to the majority of the people that I've spoke with, yes. So.
And I want to say thank you to Don, and I also want to thank these 2 gentlemen sitting right here, because both of those guys reached out to me this week and we had a good discussion. So thank you for that. And I do want to say, and you said it best, there isn't anybody here that is against change. Not one of us. I think every one of us that sits up here has an open mind. But that comes from quality within this committee. It comes from respectful conversation. And I think we're past our rough roads. I really do. I think all of us understand that we're here for the same reason. We're here to do what's best for our citizens, to do what's best for our children, to do what's best for people 100 years down the road for the city of Brandon. So hats off to you. Thank you guys for your input. I appreciate you reaching out to me, and please continue to.
Excellent. Okay, looking forward to more information coming our way. Resolution 2417, regional system development charges.
More than just quality or source. I'm open-minded to anything, and I think we should probably speak to it, yes, to put it.
Well, I think ultimately, whatever we decide to do, a lot of the things that we're talking about right now are certainly going to be affected, and we will have to go back and look at them. Being in the very elementary stages of what we're doing right now, I think we need to continue moving forward, but I think all of these things that we're talking about right now certainly have potential for large change.
That's what's weighs so heavy on my mind on a nightly basis when I lie in bed, because this is big. I mean, and we can't please everybody, we're not gonna make everybody happy, and it's a tough thing to go through this kind of change. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna listen to the experts, and we're gonna make a decision as a group and move forward. And I don't know what else to do other than that.
And that's your question, John?
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm hoping, kind of everything's on the table, and, you're not gonna get to everything in the first month or 2 months, but, you obviously gotta prioritize, and it sounds like you got some great ones here, so I assume this one's a lower priority, but I'd like to see at least look at.
All right, any other discussion? If not, I have a motion, a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Opposed?
All right. Item C, resolution 2317, water surface rate changes. This report, Osborne, second by Jones, to approve construction pay app number 7, vinyl solid removal and cell grading. Questions or discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brett.
Item 14F, Minnehaha County Water Corporation emergency connection.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, City Staff. Tim Wakefield here in Brandon. Wanted to talk about MCWC and the potential there. As a council, are you aware that MCWC offered Brandon to sell the water tower out by Marmon and connect to them last spring before we got the watering ban?
We talked about it, yeah. It was my understanding that it was not a sizable tower, I guess, for the needs, but again, some of my thinking has changed, but we did talk about it, yes.
Okay, thank you. Do you as a council understand that the plant efficiency will go down due to the additional backflushing caused by the HMO system? To me, because of this, we need to look at alternate sources. We have a situation where we have reduced plant efficiencies. We ran into issues last year with the current production. We had wonderful communication with the committee just this past week with conservation, and there's a heck of a lot of stuff we can do as residents. But what would happen if well 6 would fail? Do we have a true backup to sustain firefighting operations and handle the lower plant efficiency right now?
Where's Raleigh?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Well 3 is our backup.
Well 3 produces 700 gallons a minute. The average fire truck requires 1,500 gallons a minute. On a structure fire, you're gonna have 2 trucks most likely in your early unit from Sioux Falls, pumping 1,500 gallons a minute. And you're gonna have one of our trucks here in Brandon, hopefully there, it's gonna be pushing another potential 1,500 gallons a minute. It's not gonna take long for us to overcome that 700 gallons a minute. Right now, that's our only backup.
Well, kind of, I think I told Don, if I haven't, I don't talk to you, but one of the things I'd like to see come out as a priority from the water committee is a decision on well and grade, because as we know, Stockwell's recommended drilling well and grade. We put that on hold as kind of this conversations we're going. That was going to be our backup thing, and that's where we'd be at. So that's one of the first decisions I'd like to see made, because depending on that answer, if if you either do or don't agree with that assessment and want to go that route, I think we need to start right away in the spring. Just for those specific reasons alone, to have that backup source, so.
And that's where this gets complicated. There's a lot coming down the pipeline. If we continue to use water out of the aquifers around here, then I think that's an alternative. If we decide as a committee to recommend to the council, and the council sees it that way, that we need to seek water from other sources, then all of this is a moot point, including well 7, which, to be honest, is the elephant in the room, because I'm a little worried about it. I know this is probably a swing from maybe some of the things I've stated in the past, but I think maybe it's the pilot in me. You know, in aviation, every aircraft, every system is redundant. It's, you know, redundancy saves your life, and my life has been saved multiple times due to redundancy, engine failures, and etc. We talked about this back when we had the watering, lawn watering issues in the summer. We talked about maybe connecting to MCWC. And I'm not making a definitive answer. I'm thinking out loud here, and I do want to make my voice heard on this. This might not be a half bad idea to have it as a backup. Not necessarily turn the handle, maybe not turn the water on, but to have it in place as a backup. I just want to say on the record, we need to talk about this, because I think it's a potential. And I say that having talked to, again, some of the DNR and stuff, because I know what's coming. I can see it. I know what these guys are going to present to this group. So I am somewhat seeing what's coming down the pipeline here to our group, and I just want to say we probably should talk about this. Maybe not tonight, but in the very near future.
I certainly agree. I think it's something that needs to be talked about. My concern is this. First of all, I'd like to see this coming out of the committee as a recommendation. That's something that has to be done. Second of all, before we put shovel to dirt, we have to have something in writing. There has to be a contract. There has to be something with these folks. I mean, we just can't willy-nilly put a pipe in the ground and, you know, expect that the good Lord's going to come down and make everything good, because it doesn't work that way. I mean, within city government, within federal government, whatever the case may be, there has to be a contract, and we certainly have to have something between these folks in the city of Wayne before we can do that. And I've talked to Tim about that. It sounds to me like you're a little hesitant to do that. Well, I would never vote for anything up here unless I knew in black and white what we were doing. It's too open-ended otherwise.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I agree. MCWC and the city of Brandon need to have a meeting in the near future. I would like to be at that meeting, and I know Brian has spoke with them a couple times, I think. I agree that it has to be in writing. I would never recommend that we start spending money on this until we know that MCWC can provide us with written confirmation that, in fact, they can provide us with X amount of gallons a day if we need it. And is there any reciprocity? Do they need anything from us? You know, maybe not, but just, I agree, that needs to be in writing. And I know the city, our city hall has worked hard on this. I wouldn't mind sitting in on some of these meetings to help understand, just to help grow my knowledge of this scenario. But
Yes, I have a couple other points on this topic. Mr. McInerney, you brought up well number 8. Did you know that well 8 seems to be suffering from the same fate with regards to high levels of iron, manganese, and gross alpha? That information was provided in the well 8 study.
Yeah, no, we're made aware.
Thank you. And when it comes to MCWC, obviously I'm a big proponent of the committee. I sit on the committee. I'm very thankful that I do, and thankful for all the effort that everyone puts in. As you're aware, one of the very first times I stood up at this podium, I brought up True Shrimp, which is a shrimp harbor that landed itself over in Laverne. Don and I think was our first little bit of a hiccup, but.
We had butts for a little bit, that's, or butted heads, that's.
Yeah, but we're past that now, but that's, absolutely. But I wanted to make the council aware that Del Rapids did get awarded the True Shrimp over in Del Rapids, and they are connected to MCWC. Why does that make a difference? As you're aware, True Shrimp takes a lot of water, and our window was closing for our opportunity to connect to MCWC. I've spoke with them specifically about this topic, and if we wait too long, that window is going to close, and then we will not have that option. That's why I brought it up on the agenda today, is because the concern of the timing. I have absolutely no interest in working around the committee. That's not my intent in any way, shape, or form. But with True Shrimp going into Del Rapids is already asking for more water. And the way it sounds is that's the same water that we're asking for. I understand that we need to have contracts in place. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on our behalf. We need to take the effort to put together information and hand that over to CWC to provide them with what are our goals, what are we looking for, and all those sorts of things, and try to move forward. But today, I stand up here as a former fireman and many other topics, and just like Don said, my job relies around finding single point failures. And currently our city infrastructure has a few. We don't have great backups. And Don and I talked about this very specifically, and Barb and I also did, about using well 3. It's great, but it's not through a treatment plant. Hopefully most of that water is going to the fire and not to the residents. But right now, that backup is very, very limited. They better be bringing some big tankers from our neighboring communities, like our mutual aid agreements say. But at any rate, they do, absolutely they do. Yep, and it's.
They would never allow it to not happen.
Right, absolutely, and I've done many water shuttles, and it's great to have your surrounding neighbors come help. So I guess where I'd like to see this go is, honestly, I think we have to do something immediately before we lose our opportunity to connect to MCWC based on True Shrimp going to Del Rapids.
So Brian, we've talked to them, right?
MCWC.
We've got the door open?
Yep.
Okay, so we maybe need to meet with them again?
Well, when's our next meeting, Brian, or is there one scheduled, or, I mean, what's your thoughts on this as far?
MCWC?
Yeah.
We don't have a meeting, it's an ongoing conversation that I have with Scott Russ. It wasn't until we could figure out how much water we need. On 3 things from MCWC, how much water they can give us, for how long, cost, and then a full chemical analysis of their water.
Okay. Is that, I mean, what do you think, Paul? Do you think we should get a meeting, an official meeting scheduled discussing some of this? Am I crazy to think that having this as a backup plan might not be a bad idea? What are your thoughts?
I mean, based on conversation too, we need to take a look at, like Brian's saying, that water makeup, because it is different than how
Sure.
we treat our water with fluoramines and chlorines, and we've discussed that, and what that
Right.
could potentially do to the scaling of our pipes and water discoloration, and potentially taste issues. So, I mean, as far as getting meeting together, I think it's always good to talk about it, but there's a lot of other issues.
There is, and that's where this is so cumbersome. This is not an easy solution. There's a lot to, there's a lot at stake here. I don't know what the answer is.
But I think the answer is we keep moving forward. You guys keep having your meetings, we set up this meeting, we keep talking, and, it's, as I've said from the very beginning, if we sign the paper today, it still takes 3-4 years to throw a switch on a project. So, it doesn't take that long to bury a pipe, I get that, but, it's not certainly a decision I feel this council's ready to make right now. I just don't think we can.
Well, no, we need more information. I wouldn't mind being a part of that meeting if we can get something set up soon. I think it's something that we should look at.
Good.
Do you agree, Mayor?
Yes, I said that at that meeting out of Dawson,
Okay.
for every turn over every rock.
Well, and just like Brian, they met with Sioux Falls, which I think was a great idea, Okay, well, I'll I'll stay diligent on this and try and do my part anyway. I'll see.
Item G, engineering RFP, additional water sources.
I've taken the opportunity to meet with a few of the councilmen and women here in the last few weeks. One of the things that's been brought up multiple times is a peer review or request for qualifications. There's a difference between an RFP and an RFQ. In this case, I wanted to bring up the point that a peer review was just completed down in Harrisburg and on their wastewater treatment plant. And that peer review did find some changes that did need to happen. That honestly is a great thing. As an engineer, it's something that I'm very interested in, my work being checked, as most of us are. When you write a book, you have a group of people that review your work to make sure that you don't have those mysterious typos. That's something that happens very often, to look at our overall system. Today, we've used one firm, and we've been working on this for 10 years. And I understand that it takes two pieces to that puzzle. It takes recommendations and it takes decisions. And where we're at today, I think it's time that we look at other qualified firms. It's a process in which we would take and put together what we're looking for. There wouldn't be I hopes, there would be this is our deliverables. And I think that's why the RFQ is very pointed in finding 2 additional water sources. And that's what I provided to Mr. Wells. I'd like to see us move forward with that immediately. I think, again, I'm not trying to circumvent the committee. I don't want it to be taken that way, but this is information that the committee is going to need. And Ms. Hausman said tonight that 4 to 5 months. These peer reviews and RFQs, they take, we're looking at by end of December, hopefully having responses back from multiple engineering firms. An interview process takes a month. By the time they do the work, it's another 2 months. We're pushing out to 4 months before the information is even completed to provide to the committee. That's why I'm standing here today talking about this topic is, can we get the RFQ released to find additional engineering firms to look at this, to do a peer review. My hope is that we would have half a dozen engineering firms, professionals here in Sioux Falls respond to our RFQ, and the committee could actually go through in one of their meetings, do an interview process and review it. We're fortunate enough to have 3 real engineers. I guess I'm a fake engineer in this topic, but I'm industrial. But we do have 3 engineers sitting on the committee that represent firms that are very specific in this. I would expect our current firm to respond to the RFQ as well, and let the committee go through and do that interview process, review their qualifications, review all of that. So.
Thank you, and I agree. My question is I'd like to see that information come out of the committee. Mr. Wakefield and I have talked about that. I think we're sliding on a slippery slope when we put this committee together, and we've done the things that we need to do, and I realize that there are things that are really important and timely. I get that. But, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree, Tim, so please don't take this the wrong way. But we agreed to put this committee together, and these are the types of things that we would like to see come out of the committee. Again, not that your information is good, bad, or otherwise, Tim, whether I agree or disagree, but you're one person that's part of a larger body. And I'd like to see that information funneled through that larger body, and that information come back as a recommendation from that committee. I think it's a good idea, I do. But
to be clear, this topic was brought up in the committee meeting, and it was snuffed out pretty quick because we had other topics. It was something that was snuffed out by a former councilman. Sorry, I'm trying to Mindy.
I guess I was in the exact same thought as Blaine, that, you know, I stood up here and agreed that we would put a referendum on all water improvements until the committee had time to go to work, and I guess what you're stressing is the urgency, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where, Don, you're in such a tough spot. With the, we keep throwing these things at you and say, prioritize, you know, everything, it's just that ain't like anybody else's job. This is priority number one, no, this is priority number one, no, now, tomorrow it's this, so.
I think we're on 4 or 5 stars for
Yeah,
priority now.
exactly. But I'm in the exact same spot, Blaine. I don't know how to make a decision on this. I agreed to basically stop all decisions until we got the consensus of a council that was supposed to come up with these recommendations.
Well, and one thing is, city government is not fast, if you haven't learned that already. We're not, it's not a fast